and casual banter that is humorous. Go.
Hello, welcome to the Quackcast. This is Quackcast number 376. I'm Ozone Ocean. This is a Drunk Duck Quackcast, and with us is Quai de Guxay after a very long hiatus. Hello, Quai.
Hello.
And we have Pitface. Hi, Pit.
Hello.
We have Tanserine. Hi, Tans.
Hello.
And we have Baines. Hello, Baines.
Hello.
Awesome. Awesome. All of us. Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had you on the Quackcast, and yeah, we have been very remiss in that. We should have had you along a lot sooner than this, for goodness sake.
It's okay. My life's different, schedules changes every day. Typically Saturday.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I used to have a morning job too, so it's okay.
Oh my god.
Actually, I was supposed to work. I could have worked this morning, but I said no. I'm going to be on a radio podcast. No, I really didn't. This was the excuse, and then my boss was just like, "Oh, that sounds very exciting." Thumbs up.
Give him a link so he can listen to the magnificence of Quai Online. That'd be fantastic. And people who haven't heard Quai on the Quackcast before, go and listen to some past ones with Quai. I'm sure you can find. Well, you should have heard Quai on every Quackcast. Jesus, every second one.
90. I was on 95. I was on a couple of the ones in the hundreds, but they've since been, I think, deleted. Since they do delete after 200, I think.
Oh my god, really?
So a lot of the early episodes are not available on iTunes anymore, unless you downloaded them when they were being released.
Oh,
yeah.
That sucks.
You can find them in pawn shops or flea markets.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Ask for Guido.
Very valuable.
He has them all.
Yeah.
He has them on audio cassette tapes.
That's right, man. If you can find them, snap them up, and we'll go for a fortune.
Well, of course, everybody should be able to hear Quai on every second Quackcast, where Quai does the feature.
Right.
The
Features.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Speaking of
I'm
which,
on the Quackcast, but not live.
Yes. Quai record. Speaking of which, we have the feature now, which you have done for us. So take it away, Quai, with the feature. And what was the feature this week? It was... Damn, I just looked
What was that one about... Oh, gee. It was a really good one about some lactose, Captain Galactose.
Captain Galactose.
Yeah.
Oh,
and how he turns milk and radioactive sludge into his special power, where he becomes like...
Well, you'll tell us about it in the recording, and I'm so glad I'm not the only one who forgets my own feature. So take it away, Quai, with the feature.
Hello, this is Quai de Guxay, and the feature I've selected for this week is Captain Galactose by Captain Galactose, and it is rated E for everyone. When a toxic waste truck and a milk truck collide, the end result is creating a new superhero. This milk-drinking action hero is now tainted with toxic ooze and a stretch costume with a 2% logo across the chest, and his new call sign is Super Cancer? The only problem is that he is unsure of the type of powers he wields exactly. Got milk, bro? Find out all about Captain Galactose's new special powers and read Captain Galactose by Captain Galactose, rated E.
And that was our feature from Quai. Thank you very much for that, Quai, for being here as well as doing our feature. Fantastic. Captain Galactose. Brilliant. Oh, and then we have to bring up the featured music as well. Gomos has given us the feature. And the music that he gave us was a feature that you did, Quai. You snatched it right out of my claws before I could do it. Which I'm glad about, because it means, one more great feature gets done. And it was Potato and Kraut. And Gomos gave us the
another good title.
Yeah. Two staple foods of different places. So, Potato and Kraut, this music it's the feel of a gigantic weight. This music layers onto your shoulders, a synthesized torrent of gravity, followed by the heavy, deep notes of a piano dropping on top of you like frozen slabs. The torrent slowly eases and brings light and relief, then fades away. So enjoy this beautiful music that Gun Wallace has created, and he didn't use any loops on this. This was all Gun Wallace playing his own music. So take it away, Gun. And that was our music. Go Wallace, thank you very much. Potato and Kraut. Beautiful playing of your heavy, heavy music. Not heavy as in heavy metal, but heavy as in gravity. Okay, so we have tutorials. We haven't really talked... We've had a couple of features on tutorials, I think, a long time ago. But I always like to sort of, revisit stuff. So the plan was for each of us to sort of chat about our favorite tutorial that we had picked out. And I'm sure we've all picked out some good ones. I was going to pick out my tutorial, which was one of the very first ones, but it's bloody been deleted. It doesn't exist.
Oh no! I remember there was an amazing one a long time ago of how to draw rain, how to draw snow, like elements, and I used it actually for a page on my comic because it was such a good, well-written tutorial.
Oh wow! Yeah, there were some really. Still are some good ones. One of the problems is, of course, that bloody idiot.
Sorry, that's my.
Oh, that's all right. A Photo Bucket, which was the default image sharing site that everyone used, and that changed their policies or whatever, which meant that all 90% of photos on the net are broken links from a few years ago. So from probably the last 10 years or something, they're all broken links, which means a lot of tutorials feature, fantastic stuff, but they're useless now because all the pictures they
just came back. I just checked recently, and all the pictures and stuff I posted on the news posts are back for some reason.
Really?
Because I was looking through the tutorials and there's a lot of dead images in there.
Were they Drunk Duck links or were they?
I just assumed they were Photo Bucket ones because that happened with Photo Bucket.
Okay, yeah, it's a Photo Bucket problem.
Mm-hmm.
These
some of them are all the way back from 2008 and 2007. There are some. Did you Google? But it's weird. They're not in chronological order. All these tutorials.
Are they? Well, let's talk about our favorite one. So, who wants to go first with the feature that the tutorial that you picked out?
Well, I did one, and so that's what I gravitated to because I'm a fan of talking about myself.
Of course, you're a covert narcissist.
Exactly. It's not so covert. But I did one like a few years ago, surprised that it was how long ago it was, actually. It was 1978. No, it was 2012. And it was on screenwriting. And I've had people, especially young Mr. Gunwallace, who's an awesome writer, say that he's used this structure stuff quite a bit. He's written some scripts using it, and I've used it. I still use it. Tutorial on screenwriting and story writing. And it's sort of a screen structure format kind of thing. And then there's a discussion of genre and how that goes. But the structure thing is very, very handy. Some people call it the Baines method, even though I didn't make it up. I just stole it and talked about it.
Oh, please post the link to it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Right. Good call.
Give us the good stuff.
And so it's basically, I don't know. I mean, people can check it out if they want. I guess we'll have the links in the Quackcast notes or whatever. But it basically goes through the structure of a screenplay, how to kind of dissect it. And if your story is not working, this can be a handy way to see possibly why it's not working. Or if you're having trouble figuring out where you need to go in a longer form story or even a short story, you can look at this kind of stuff to maybe fill in some missing pieces. Not rules per se, of course, and especially in web comics and non-movie things where it's not millions of dollars at stake. There's a lot less rules, and like being more experimental, I think, is the huge upside of doing comics and especially web comics kind of thing. But still, it can help if you're trying to get a handle on structuring your story, and it's all that. I could go through it all, but it's all there.
Yeah. I think we had it in a Quackcast.
Yeah, this was from a Quackcast we did like way back in the day. Yeah, 2012. We were trying to beat the punch. When the world ended at the end of that year, we're like, let's get this in there. So
Jesus Christ, I can't believe we've been doing the Quackcast for so long.
That's like shocking. I know. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. Yeah, and I think that took about 15 attempts to post this and have it all work out, because I copied and pasted the stuff that you wrote into some kind of format, and every time I posted it into the damn tutorial, it'd go weird, like the text would go gigantic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember that.
Size.
It was in a Google Doc or something? Did we have those at the time? Did we have Google at the time?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the formatting would be all weird. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I had to go through line by line and correct every single thing. But yeah,
oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, the tutorial thing is a bit wonky.
Right.
But yeah, it looks like you've got 6 votes, and every single vote gave you 5 stars on it. So there we are.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm happy to look at that today, actually, and see that.
Yeah, it's a top.
And I thank those people greatly. I'm sure one of them was me.
So 5 other people used your advice.
Yeah, I don't know if I voted on it. I'll have to look.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, it's a very useful one. I remember reading it myself and thinking, man, if I was a better writer, I'd be able to use this.
It's not even about like writing good or bad. I mean, you could easily write something terrible using this structure. I think it's done. But if you kind of really dig in and if you really dig in, like, and think about it, and there's books that discuss like this in depth, it will help you. Like if you really think about your theme and kind of integrating them, there's still choices to make when you write, obviously, but it can help things turn at the right places, kind of thing, to give your audience sort of an experience that will feel right, and it's cohesive. And it's kind of where, like, if you have scenes, like sort of scattered scenes in mind, this can help you with ideas of where in the story does this go? Where does that go?
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're following, the traditional hero's journey kind of thing.
Yeah, even if you're not, it does change a bit. I mean, this is definitely sort of a loose not as deep version of the hero's journey or the monomyth or whatever.
Yeah.
I find this more user friendly and it's more adaptable. I mean, even though if you're doing like a horror story or something, or even some like an indie type, like a mumblecore thing or whatever you're in, sometimes it doesn't apply. And definitely in horror and action, even like you don't find character arcs and you don't find the same kind of like rallying back for Act 3, from a hero who's like sort of learned everything they need to know. It doesn't always work that way in all genres. So, but still, you need things to get more intense. You have periods of like less things happening and things happening to the hero. Oh, again, this doesn't always apply to horror, but I mean, usually then there are certain points where the hero has to be making choices and making like active decisions. And if they're not, this is where a lot of definitely like movies fall apart kind of thing if they don't have this kind of stuff. I would say definitely horror is pretty different. Like you have to approach it kind of differently, I think, in a way.
But it's
still
it's all about setting it up for a status, for an ending, which is an important thing for most stories. And to get to that conclusion, you have to make it worthwhile. So you go through that, is it going to be a good ending or not? And you work up to that through the climax and all that kind of stuff, and false climaxes and stuff, and then give them the payoff.
Yeah, you have sort of a quote-unquote false victory that's often at the midpoint, or like things getting more intense. Maybe the A story crossing over with the B story or the theme kind of thing. Like you'll notice at the halfway point of a lot of movies is where like there's a kiss or some kind of public event. Like that was eye-opening to me when I saw this. It's like, oh, things kind of get bigger in a way, and they get more serious. There's more at stake, kind of right at the middle.
Yeah.
And then there's the idea of the all is lost and Dark Night of the Soul. That was the biggest eye-opener for me, maybe, where after the midpoint, like things get more difficult, and then you have like something bad happens, and then the hero is lost. Or or the world or of the story is like you don't know what to do, and you're bereft, and it seems worse than where you started, kind of thing. Okay. That's like a very important point, I think, of most stories.
Yeah, you need that contrast to make these events have meaning.
Yeah, there has to be a delay kind of before the hero acts. It has to be sort of challenging on as many levels as possible. Or also there's the thing, and I mapped out the movie Halloween using this when I first learned this. I watched that and I was writing down everything, like, does this fit? And what I liked about that is like the opening image and final image often in a movie that's well put together or a story that's well put together will be kind of mirror images of each other. So your first shot or couple shots or your first page or couple pages maybe will be like you'll be able to look at that and then look at the last shot or the last page, and they kind of there's a connection there between the two. It's the same thing but different, or it's like a mirror image but whatever.
Wow.
And I noticed Halloween did that I never, after watching that movie a dozen times, like I watched it again and I was like, oh, it starts with kind of the same image that it ends with in a weird way.
That's what I'm going to do for this end of the chapter in Pinky TA. Thanks, Bane.
Oh, people are going to love this comic. So yeah, that's that. And I'm happy with this. I want to say proud of it, but I stole all of it from someone else. So.
No.
I'm proud of typing it all down.
It is the Bane's method from now and forever.
That's right. Yeah.
That's how.
Forget you. Yeah. So yeah, that's it, man.
All right. Well, so Pitt wants to go last, and I shall honor that. So let's see, Tance, you're mistress of the headache. Should we go before you get any sicker?
I'm going to be okay. I do have a tutorial that I read, and to be entirely honest, you assigned it to me as homework because I didn't have the time to sift through all the amazing tutorials that I'm certain exist in our site. So all of you guys that want to learn and enrich yourselves, just, begin. Don't be like me that, waits for homework. But I do have the structure of a manga page, which it is by Lace, and it has 18 votes, and all of them are 5 stars. So
wow.
Apparently it's extremely good quality. And having read through it, I do think that it is a very nice start on how to structure any comic page, not just a manga page. So just let me make it readable for me.
Oh yeah, post the link for our
just a second.
People.
So
our fellow Quackcasters.
This is the link.
Awesome. There you go, guys.
And so the structure of a manga page basically goes through some principles and guidelines to create a webcomic page or a comic page that works and enables your audience to follow your story in a way that your art, if it's not top notch, is not going to get in the way of your story, more or less. So at least that's what I got out of the tutorial. And she has, I hope Lace is a woman. I'm not sure, but assuming that she is, she has some very good principles on how to set up the page, how to have establishing shots so that the reader always knows where the characters are, even for the panels that end up not having backgrounds. You have to have set it up properly so that when those panels do come along, the audience fills in the gap, so to speak, because they already have an idea of where the characters are and where they are interacting. And this is something that I have been guilty of a lot. She says, don't cram too many panels in one page. I used to have something like 12, 13, 14 panels in a single page in the beginning of Without Moonlight. It was insane. It killed me. And apparently it wasn't as good for the readers either. So the idea, she says here, is that if you have too many panels on the page, it can look cluttered. And you might end up making your readers having to struggle through the work and having to read bubbles that cover up your art too much. And that will take away from the end result. So I do think that is a good advice in general. I mean,
yeah.
Having bigger panels and everything will help a lot.
Yeah.
And then there is, she does have something that I'm not very sure about, that she says that you can, break the panel boundaries and do it and give more dynamic to your story and your characters and everything. Have the bubbles break the panel boundaries, and I can see the merit that it can offer. Certainly, movement and force, especially if you have, for example, an action scene where you might need to show that everything is moving with a lot of force and momentum and power. But if you do it too often, I fear that it might again make it feel a bit disorganized, like you cannot plan your panels to enclose your action in a sense. So, but that might be me because I am a control freak. So take that with a grain of salt. So, okay, of course, then she also says, have your bubbles in a readable order and, to guide the eye of your audience through the page. And that if you don't do American comics, don't have big word boxes.
Like captions, you mean?
Yeah, like don't have people saying small speeches in the word bubbles.
Oh,
because the idea is that a reader should be able to speed through the page rather than stop and read through the panel. And in that, I think, again, it depends on how you sell it a lot. Of course, I grew up not with American, but with European comics, where you will see blocks of text hovering over the art in a panel, and that's fine. That's completely fine, especially if you look at 10 or Asterix or the classics, these classics of European comic. You do get walls of text. So again, I think it depends on how you design the composition of your page and how you design your panel to work with or without a block of text. And then again, she says, reasonable things that you should do, like planning your comic layout before drawing everything.
Yeah.
And make sure that you have good transitions. And she finishes with, again, no-brainers that nobody does, spell checking, for example. And having consistent rules that you seldomly, very, very rarely break, only for a specific effect. And having readable fonts. So, basic stuff, very good guidelines to get you started and get you to feel comfortable that you are creating a consistent comic. So, well done.
Yeah, it's a good, a very exhaustive tutorial text-wise. She did have images in there that are broken links. They're photo bucket links, so those ones are broken. For me, anyway, I can't see any images.
Half of them worked for me on the laptop. On the desktop, nothing works.
That's interesting. Okay. But I was just going to say that her text descriptions are so good that she doesn't really need the images. So it's yeah, it's a good example of somebody doing it really well and not needing the images. They're just there to illustrate the thing. Yeah. So yeah, if you can see the images, fantastic. Yeah, it's a very exhaustive tutorial and highly rated, so I suppose this should be a lot of use to people. Yeah, as you said, for American comicers, manga, or whatever. It's got a lot of useful basic advice that everybody should know about. Even, people like us have been doing it forever. I've still got, I'm still very much an amateur the way I do my stuff, and I make lots of basic mistakes. So this is even a huge help to me. All right. So who would like to go next? Quai? Or, I could go next.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to go?
I do have something ready. Well, it's I just found the tutorial I was talking about earlier.
Oh, good.
2007.
Link us.
Yes. It
Sounds
was written
rude.
by no, it's written by Silent Kitty.
Oh.
She was the user. I remember her avatar.
Oh, Silent Kitty of the Purgatory Tower.
Yes. Like the avatar was like a black-haired person with the back facing you. Let me find that. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like it had kitty ears. Do you know that avatar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I barely remember. Yeah, I think that was the author of Purgatory Tower. She was, Sarah Habblethwaite,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. I'm just going to do a search for that. Silent Kitty. Silent. Okay, I thought you were going to do the fallopian one.
Oh, I could do. Okay, yes. But I can just mention.
Do whichever one you want. I'm not
'Cause I
saying
wrote,
you should.
Oh no, but this one is a. There's been 41 reviews.
Yeah.
And they all gave them 5 stars.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know where all these ratings are coming from, but I just remembered. I mean, this is definitely a tutorial that I sought out because it's called like how to make rain effects in a comic.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I found it because I was living in a place that constantly was raining, and I saw this and I thought it was just pretty interesting. I wanted to have a rain scene in my comic. So pretty much the tutorial used to have like images that went through each step, and there were like 5 different steps. And what she would say is like you have to put like you have to utilize like layers. And it was just interesting because you take an image, you put like white dots all over the top layer, then you kind of like smudge them, and then you like drag them down, and then you can start making like plop looking rain.
Oh wow, that's genius.
And it was just cool because after I saw this tutorial, I was able to do it on my own comic, and I was like, wow, this is so fun. And I was so happy for the tutorial section. That was just that was the quick one.
Yes, it is the Purgatory Tower girl. Sarah Habblethwaite. Everybody should know that name. She's a genius artist.
Is that her real name?
Yeah.
Oh wow, we're giving. I thought we're using her superhero personas. Our silent kitty.
She doesn't really post on there as much, so she's a fantastic artist, and I'm sure people should search out for her, on like DeviantArt or whatever, because genius artist. So the rain effects.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yes, so it was the creating rain effects. It was just like using filters, blurs, and then she would take blue to like give the raindrops like a shading. And then it was just interesting to do splashy effects. But that's all I wanted to say about that one. The other tutorials that I wanted to talk about were Fallopian Crusaders tutorials, because he does a lot of he uses techniques that I learned in school, and a lot of the tutorials he made are like the more recent ones made in like 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
And so he would show like YouTube videos of how he'll like draw an interior rendering, and like one of them, he was talking about how when you're making a conceptual design, you can't spend more than 2 hours on it, because if you're getting paid to create this image, you want to do it faster. Otherwise, you're going to be getting paid less per hour for the initial design, which is a really smart thing to just kind of budget your time wisely. One of the my favorite ones is the coloring a design presentation drawing, which was written on February 4th, 2018. And I'll post the link. Let's see.
Quite recent.
Okay, so in this one, he's drawing like outdoor kiosks of like smoothie carts and stuff like that. I think he shows like a 17-minute YouTube video, but the way he drew it is like, I don't know, he knows perspective in a way that like his pictures just come out looking very comfortable for the eye. Like the eye level is just the right length. Mm-hmm. But there was this one where he was like drawing the interior of a room, and he would say that he kind of fishbowl warps the perspective slightly, because I forgot the technique, but it's not exactly 1 point perspective. He kind of stretches it a little bit. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like he warps
the
interior of a room. I forgot why that was.
It's a 3-point perspective almost. It's more natural. So 1-point perspective isn't natural. Not even 2-point. The real world sort of bends away from the lens of your eye in a very complex manner. And the more you more concessions you make to that, the more natural the image looks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he also applies techniques where, for instance, if you're going to have a wood table, he'll get an actual piece of like a wood image and he will like adhere it onto a drawn table, kind of like a sticker, but he'll keep everything in perspective. And it's just the specific kind of style he's doing is like industrial design, and it's more like what he's doing for his profession, more for so than comics, but the techniques and the styles he's using is very helpful for drawing in like backgrounds if you're doing a comic with these types of realistic comic drawing backgrounds.
I watched the videos myself. I was very impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very impressed. He's very exhaustive, and he is an industry professional, and he's letting us on a bit of his years of knowledge in those videos and that work, and he's very generously doing that too. He's not keeping all his secrets to himself.
Right.
So I'm very grateful for that.
Yes. So thank you, Philippine Crusader. Your work is very good. Yes, I did. I definitely wrote a news post about it once because I was just like, oh, wow, this is actually very, he was always posting on the forums, oh, have everyone check out my videos. But then he started like posting them on the tutorial section, and it turns out like the last 10 tutorials are all his. But if you want to know how to like do 2D, 3D architectural renderings or sketches, it's like, this is a great place to learn it on the tutorial section from all of Philippine Crusaders. Uploads.
Oh yeah, man.
It should be something everybody can see, and it's a video, so it's not like you have to sit through and read it. Just watch it. Take it all in. Some good techniques that are equally applicable to GIMP or Photoshop or any of these Manga Studio or whatever people use these days.
And he's actually still using Photoshop. He's not using like a 3D program like Revit, which is good because like that means you don't have to pay for a lot of software to show the same kinds of drawings he's making.
Yeah. It's anybody could, if you've got a 2D drawing program, you can do it.
Yeah.
It's very applicable. Yeah. Fallopian, you're fantastic. Fallopian.
You're a crusader.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, he has such a fantastic name. Well, I'll bring up mine then. The ones that I picked out. I would really love to talk about my the first one I ever did. I think it was one of the very first tutorials, but it's been deleted.
It was the first. No, I'm just kidding. It was the first tutorial. No,
it probably was. Yeah, because it was back when they were introducing the whole thing, tutorials to the site, they said, okay, all right, admins, we need you to come up with some content for this, and we'll feature it. And no one else did it except for me, and I did this long thing, and a special picture of Pinky, and I documented every stage of it, doing screenshots of all the stages, and I did it, and I fitted it all into this, new unfamiliar tutorial format, and got it ready for when the featured, for when the tutorials went live, and they had it as the featured tutorial for so long. And the thing is, I was being so careful about this. I was so proud of the image too. I loved it. I didn't realize I'd actually given her 6 fingers on one of her hands, and this was a featured tutorial, so everybody got to see this. Everybody got to see my mess up.
Hold on. I see. Oz, I found it. It's called Drawing the Ozone Way, July 16th, 2007.
Oh my God, you found it.
Wow.
It's totally here. You got, this is, don't be sad, 4-star average out of 28 votes.
Ooh.
But it's, the tutorial is 334, Drawing the Ozone Way. It's definitely one of the oldest ones. And there are tons of pictures and 10 steps.
Awesome. Give us the link, please. Please.
I did. Oh, do you want me to put it on? Oh, yeah, I can definitely put the link on.
Sure.
Yeah, it's still here. I told you all the tutorials are out of order. They're really based on either who read them last or who, I don't know, ranked them last, I think. So, yes. Your work has not been lost to the ether. It's still here.
Wow, but in all its six-fingered glory.
Wait, how do I don't even know how to...
Well,
I forgot how to...
There's the chat window on the left of the main screen.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to do
I got it. Okay, so your work is here. It's 334. Okay, here we go.
All right, down in that window there. Oh, cool. I'll get to see my old tutorial again. That's amazing. Quai, have you put the Darth Vader helmet on?
Just close to the mic.
Oh, the breathing thing. Wait, was that for me?
Yeah.
I guess me or... Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I can't see any of the images on it, but at least, it's there. My tutorial. My God, it exists. Okay, I shall link to that in the Quackcast. That's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm not getting the images either on my laptop.
Yeah, I'm not getting them either. One moment.
Oh yeah, I don't get the images. I just get the tutorial though, so you can talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, well, I'm not going to talk about that one because I haven't read it for in years. So, yeah, it exists anyway. Oh, jeez. Yeah, broken images because they're actually on the Drunk Duck server and they've disappeared for some reason. So, I don't know. Not a photo bucket problem, that one. Yeah, that was all about drawing a pose of Pinky Tia and colouring and I'm unfamiliar with it now because it's so far in the past.
Wait, Oz, you wrote here, if you were doing this with a pencil and paper, a photocopier would be an ideal tool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so 1990. I don't know.
This actually was written in 1992.
He chiseled the tutorial itself out of stone.
Oh my God! Here is another one.
Great.
Use a light box. I almost bought one a long time ago, but I haven't had it. Man, these are old tools.
Yeah. Do I talk about carbon paper or something in there as well?
No, but just zero photocopier and a light box. I do remember when people used light boxes though to make the next picture. Oh wow.
Yeah. I remember looking for one too to buy.
That primitive scum who can't be bothered using computers. Jesus. Oh man. Yeah, totally old school. Well, I'll talk about something a bit more current. So my tutorials that I picked up was one drawing hair, the basics, which is a pretty good one. Wow. So this is by Shadow Mist, who I think we've even had on the Quackcast at some time. And so she talks about a good method of drawing hair, and it's applicable to drawing any kind of hair. She does a manga style, but it's applicable to any anything. And it also works with furries too, or fur, if your character's wearing fur, as my characters frequently do because they're very barbaric. So her idea is that hair isn't sort of just stuck on randomly and spiky. It originates from a single point on something and flows from that area. And that's how she goes, that's a very realistic kind of way. And it does, when you think about it, hair sort of, on a person's heads, you either have it from the middle or from one side or whatever. Unless people's, they're gelling up the hair or doing something weird. Hair sort of just falls from a single point and then sort of just clumps and joins into these little natural kind of ringlets or clumps or whatever. Even if someone's got straight hair, very, very straight hair and doesn't, go into curly locks or whatever, it does kind of clump together in certain areas. And so that's what she's talking about. And yeah, it's a really, really good kind of thing. And it wisps and stuff like that. And she's provided a whole lot of different steps for doing it. So you do the rough shape, and then you slowly add in more detail and more wisps and more kind of clumps and things like that. And yeah, the last step, you've magically got a great picture. I love the way people do that in tutorials. They give you some basic steps and then the finished version, which is fantastic. So yeah, so that was Shadow Mist with the drawing hair. I hope people will check that one out. And the other feature that I did, the other tutorial that I've looked up is something about simple line art. This is by Final Fantasy Freak, which I'll link you guys to. So she's a freak, this one. Or she, he. I don't know. I'm just presuming it's a she. Everybody online's a she. That's how it works, guys. So this person is talking about, speaking of old school stuff, talking about Photoshop 7, Photoshop 6. When's that been current? Since 2000 and 2001 or something? Photoshop CS is being, really advanced. And that was a long
I remember being shocked having Photoshop CS. Wow.
Yeah, and that's forever ago now, isn't it? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Photoshop 6 is dark age stuff. So she's talking about some techniques to use that are very applicable to back then, and it's just as applicable now to Manga Studio or whatever you use. So yeah, there's some techniques for doing line art. So scanning. So this isn't like drawing line art in digitally. This is scanning pencil art, which a lot of people still do. And it's about honing it to get rid of all those kind of artifacts and make it so it's really bold and useful. So she starts off with you scan it, then you do some kind of technique to it. So you you manually erase any kind of crappy artifacts or crappy shadows or incorrect lines. Then you what was the next stage? Duplicate the layer and add, give it some name. Do brightness contrast on it. I use that technique all the time. Brightness contrast. That's a very easy way to darken your work as well as get rid of some of the the fading and smudging and all that kind of stuff. I even do that often for line art that I've done digitally. Apply the brightness contrast effect. It's so useful for just sort of fading out the messiness and making your own art sort of bold. It's a really good technique. You can use it in any program, or most programs will have that kind of thing, and it's really, really useful. And she also recommends also doing a color balance, a color change to the line art, which could be good actually. If you don't want to work with kind of grey or black line art, if you want to work with the actual coloured line art. So she does a hue saturation kind of thing, which makes your line art look a bit more, it pops a bit more, makes it a bit more striking. So she's gone kind of with a sepia kind of brown kind of tone. And then what she does is she actually duplicates the line art, I think, to make it a bit darker. So first she does she sets the top layer of line art to multiply. Well, she sets the line art to multiply, which is a good kind of standard technique. That way you can do color underneath. But then she does a duplicate of it and overlays it, which makes it darker without having to do any extra. Because you can only darken so much when you're doing the whole brightness contrast thing before you start to get it looking really weird and jaggy. So actually doing this kind of extra layer of the same thing and duplicating it over the top means you have it darkening without darkening stuff you don't want to have, unforeseen kind of stuff. And then she does this weird thing, I don't know why, but she does a Gaussian blur to actually make the line art smoother. So that's a weird, interesting technique as well. I'd never thought of doing that. I must try.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's one of these people that does the whole, line art, early stages and then blasts you with this fantastic finished work at the last stage, which I find very, I love that. There used to be this old joke in this old meme where, you'd say, okay, here's how you do this. Here's how you do artwork, and then it's got like a rough kind of like doing the rough shapes, and then squiggle drawing, and then step 5 is like a photorealistic painting, and they miss out all the stages to actually get to there. So it's a damn good joke anyway.
It's good. Yeah.
So yeah, that was mine. So who was this? Final Fantasy Freak 07, I believe. So yeah,
I wonder if they're still around. It's written in kind of a humorous way too. I'm not getting the images, unfortunately, but
oh really? They're showing up for me. Wow. So sometimes they show up for people, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed. Well, this one was done in way back in 2007. It was the one that I mentioned first. Who did I mention initially? Anyway, she's still around and she's still doing work. So it's good to have people still on the site.
Yeah.
So now we come to Pitface. Give us your goodness.
Okay. So
and your link.
Just a second. Lost my train of thought. Okay. Yeah, so I kind of approached this in a different way. So I chose two tutorials, and they're both kind of old and outdated. But what I wanted to do was talk about it from the perspective of actually making the tutorials. Because I think there are particular things to do that that when you're making a tutorial, some basic things that you should keep in. And so I chose 2 tutorials that deal with kind of the same thing. Not exactly, but kind of close. And one does it a bit better than the other one does it. And this other one, the first one that I'm going to talk about that doesn't do it as well, it seemed that the poster was aware of this as well. So I'm not being mean or picking on them or anything. She calls it more of a trick than a tutorial. But anyway, so before I get into it, I want to say that I think I narrowed it down to 3 basic things that if you keep in mind, you could do a good tutorial. So I'm pasting the first link right now. And it comes down to 1, is your purpose clear? Is it clear what you're trying to teach in, say, like your title and in your description and stuff? 2, do you have a good description of the process that you're describing? And 3, when you do use figures and pictures and stuff like that, or illustrations as examples, do you use them effectively? So I think those basic 3 good things, if you get those down, you'll make a pretty good tutorial. So this first link, it's called, hold on. Damn it. I just had my, so it's called, it's from like 2010, I think, right? And it's called Quick and Easy Professional Line Art for Traditional Artists by Mew3. And I assume that she's a girl. She might not be, might be. But anyway,
everyone online.
Apologies if apologies if I'm wrong. But first of all, with that title, Quick and Easy Professional Line Art for Traditional Artists, that sounds pretty straightforward. But it isn't, because when you read the actual tutorial, what it's actually about is it's basically telling you about a digital program for straightening up your line work and stuff, which could be very helpful. But the title makes you think that it's more about traditional methods on inking and drawing, I think, anyway, because she says traditional artists and doesn't mention the digital. So anyway, so from there, the description following that, because sometimes the descriptions can kind of clean things up a bit, because the titles have to be concise, right? You can't fit everything in the title sometimes. And the description says this tutorial will show a trick how to fix scanned line art so it looks like it's drawn by a tablet in the PC. That's a little bit better, but she still doesn't tell you what her focus is of this precisely. And she's telling you about how to use the specific software called, I don't even know if it's still around, Inkscape. And so, and she does, like I said, she does use the term trick. So that's kind of good in telling you that it's not a full-on tutorial. And it's not, because I'll read it really quickly. Because it's really short. It says, first, I'd like to thank you. And then a few months ago, I found a neat way to fix scanned line art so it looks like it's drawn with a tablet. It is perfect for artists who prefer drawing the line art in a traditional way. And she has a preview to a link that I don't have anymore. This had been my first try, so the drawing was a little dirty, so you can still see the difference. You do clean the line art back up, yada, yada, yada. There's a couple more paragraphs like that, but she never really explains anything about the program itself. She's just kind of saying this is a good program to have, and then she links to a video tutorial on how to use the program. And maybe that's okay, but at the same time, like the video, I watched the video, and the video's okay. But the thing is, it's like 10 minutes long, and it's very kind of technical. Like, it's easy to watch, but it's very technical. And if you're trying to get to a certain point, or, it's hard to get through.
Yeah.
So as a tutorial, this is something that you wouldn't want to do. This kind of, and then she has a illustration, and it's not a bad illustration, saying, this is what you can do with the program. But it doesn't it doesn't really show anything step by step, or like it doesn't explain how to use the program or anything like that. So these are things that you typically want to shy away from when you're making a tutorial. Now, this other one that I chose was from it was like, I just looked back, like 2007. So I'll link that up real quick.
Jeez.
I know, right? I couldn't have been more further back if I tried. Unless I chose like one of yours. Because, like I said, it was kind of dealing with the same sort of issue. It deals, I'll tell you what it's called first. It's called Preparing Line Art for Coloring, and it's by Mr. Spook. And so it's kind of dealing with the same, you put your line art, into your hand-drawn line art into a program to clean it up and get it ready and stuff like that. So preparing line art for coloring. It's still kind of bland and basic, but it's not kind of leading you astray either. And then in the detail, it says a step-by-step guide on cleaning up line art in Adobe Photoshop. So that's pretty good. It's more precise, what program you're using and whatnot. And there's no picture. I can't see the pictures on this one either, but I figured it is just kind of standing in for a thing. So, so as you start to read it, it's easier to read than the other one because it is laid out step by step. Each step, it's not a big block of text of step by step either. Each step is divided by like paragraphs, and then between a lot of them is what looks like that there were pictures there. So I imagine what he was probably doing was showing each step that he was taking on Adobe Photoshop, and showing you a screenshot of it, which is super helpful. So, it's pretty clear what he's saying, what he's intending in his title and in his description. The steps are laid out well, and he's talking about the different steps of how to do this. He's also aware of things that might be done differently on other devices or other platforms and stuff like that. So, not platforms, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And then it's very easy to read too. Like when he types like things that you need to press on the keyboard, he writes them like in the case that people usually use to write the names of keys and stuff. Like Control L is a bracket with capital CTRL plus L. Like it's, and as weird as it is to think about, when you're reading a technical guide like this, it's so important to have little phrases and like that distinguished in that kind of way.
Yeah. So
your eyes pick it up quickly. And it's easy to follow, and like I said, you can't really see the images, but I'm assuming that they were, as they're placed in between each section that tells you about what you're supposed to be doing, I'm assuming that they were screenshots of him actively using the system to show you, exactly where to click and what he's talking about. So I found that was potentially a very helpful tutorial, and I probably should have picked one that was more up to date, but I felt it was, kind of relating to this other one a little bit, what I was trying to tell you.
Yeah.
So,
that's a good, like a bad way of doing it, a good way of doing it, because tutorials aren't always about just what they're telling you. It's about how they're telling you. And there's a good way to do tutorials and not so good way to do tutorials. You don't want to presume too much familiarity, do you? Or at least you've got to tell people the level of skill they should expect to go into it with you. Like, this is an advanced kind of
very
tutorial.
much so, yeah.
That
totally.
Kind of thing.
Totally. And be clear, be as clear as you can, and concise too. Like, don't go off in all these different kind of directions, or just stay on point. And be linear.
And go with a realistic kind of, a good intro. Arm people. Tell them, okay, these are the kind of skills you'll need to be able. It's like if you were doing a recipe or something like that. You don't want to say, okay, start off with a souffle and then do this and then do that. You've got to say, okay, so you'll need to do a souffle. This is how you do a souffle. And then you go to this stage, and then you go to this stage.
Absolutely. I noticed there were a few tutorials who kind of took the route where they're like, oh, here's this thing, and then here's a video explaining it, which is fine, because videos make great tutorials as well. And our tutorial section shouldn't just be limited to typing it out. But at the same time, I think if you're going to post a video, you should also kind of accompany it with a sort of synopsis of the steps you talk about, at least a brief overview of how you go about it.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, give people, since they're on this site, to give them kind of like some idea of what, if they're clicking away to watch a video, so give them like some idea of what they're going to get, what it's going to be, so you kind of, at least you know you're looking, you know you're going to what you're actually looking for.
Yeah.
And the time when it happens in the video, so timestamp it.
Totally. Now that it's not 2007 anymore, we can do those kind of things.
That's a good. Yeah, we're not working with photocopiers anymore. Jesus. Damn lightbox users. Exactly. Oh man, yeah. Mr. Spook was a clever guy.
Or girl, probably girl.
Oh, jeez. Exactly. Yeah, Mr. Spook, he used to be a really, he used to contribute to the forums a lot. Let's just say that. And he was such
I thought that he used to, like, work with Black Kitty on the, like, they used to work on this Gigcast thing, right?
Did they?
I thought Mr. Spook and Black Kitty were, like, they were a team on this other.
You're right.
It was called the Gigcast, which was like this really big podcast for webcomickers. It was like bigger than Drunk Duck. It was like all the webcomics on the internet.
Well, it's the proto Quackcast. It should have been the Quackcast.
Right. Was it connected to Drunk Duck or was it like on its own?
It was sort of connected to Drunk Duck, but it wasn't.
'Cause I remember that thing.
It's like an alternative universe. If things would have gone a different direction, that would have been the Quackcast. But it didn't.
Yeah.
And we went in different directions. And in that world, Kennedy didn't die, and Hillary Clinton's president
won the election.
Exactly.
I actually, believe it or not, in my last semester of college, I actually cited the Gigcast as a resource because I was writing a paper on webcomics, actually.
Oh my god, the Gigcast, that is archaeology from Drunk Duck. You've put the Darth Vader helmet on again.
I'm sorry. Want me to put, hold on.
No, well, when you do that, you should say something like
it's super skivvy sounding. It's like,
no, I should.
You should just state what you're not pleased with.
You know what it is? It's I have one of those headphones on my. Here, I'll keep it kind of far away. Should I mute or something?
No, of course not.
No.
It's cool.
Or stop breathing.
yes, stop breathing for about half an hour, and you should fix it.
Ow! I'll fix it permanently.
No, it's glorious when you do it.
Oh my gosh! Okay, hope it's not that bad right now.
You should, but though you should play up to it, like turn to the dark side. All that kind of stuff. So the Gigcast was a big thing, and Mr. Spook was part of that. And thank Christ that he was around to give us his excellent tutorial and really know how to do it, because he was a very clever guy. Slither and Friends was his comic. Slither and Friends, and he gave us a good tutorial. And the images. I've noticed the images, the Drunk Duck images, are still around, so they haven't been deleted. It's just that we had this move back in the day of our images to Amazon, and that broke the links because they had this Amazon Media thing in front of the links. I'll have to go through and manually edit them to include the damn Amazon S3 stuff. and then they will appear. So yeah, they will return, and my tutorial will return in its glory. You'll be able to use it. So you guys, have all of you guys done tutorials, or is it just me and Baines?
No, I haven't. I haven't done any tutorial.
You haven't got anything worthwhile to teach anyway. No, of course you do. You've on the Quackcast, both you and Pitt have given everybody loads of fantastic advice over the years. And I'm not saying that you should go and do a tutorial now because nobody really does them, and it's a very awkward system to use. But it's what this Quackcast is about is saying that there is an excellent resource in the tutorials that you can use. So go and mine them, at least the ones that we've recommended.
Worth a peek, man. It's a section of the site that I rarely even think about. I kind of forget that it's there.
Of course,
one of our tabs.
Yeah. You're one of our mystery tabs.
Yeah.
It's where things go bump in the night for you.
That's right. Yeah, the dark corner.
Very, very dark corner. Just don't click on the stalling because that does nothing.
Kittens, like scary kittens, and Mr. Spook.
Scary. Loads of it. Silent titty, is that what you said, Tans?
Oh my god.
I didn't say it. Okay. I deny
We're all thinking
everything.
We're all thinking. All right. Well, thank you guys for being on the Quackcast and recommending these good features and giving us not features. Recommending these tutorials. My brain is twisted back to front and inside out. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. This has been Quackcast number 376. Next week, I don't know what will happen. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.